Hi, I'm Barbara Lucas, and welcome to the Green Room, where we explore the environmental topics that green up our world. Experts are concerned that kids today don't spend enough time outside. Well, at Florecita Forest Kindergarten in Ann Arbor, all their time is spent outside. Owner and playworker Tara Habeck is here today to tell us about the outdoor play-based learning that's the focus of her preschool. Tara, welcome to the show.
Oh, hi Barbara. Thank you for having me.
So Florecita is in southeast Ann Arbor, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now why is it called Forest Kindergarten if you're in an urban area?
Oh, well, Forest Kindergarten is a preschool and kindergarten program that's held almost entirely outdoors.
And so tell me the history. Where did they get that name? Where did it come from?
Oh, sure. Well, Forest Kindergartens first began to spring up in Scandinavian countries. Today they're in Japan, Germany, Russia, Canada. There's even now 5 forest kindergartens in the United States. The highest concentration of forest kindergartens, believe it or not, is in Norway, wow, which has a world-renowned education system. They have hundreds of forest kindergartens, and 1 out of 10 preschools in Norway is a forest kindergarten.
Wow. So what makes it different than a regular preschool? Or not regular, but the ones that we're more used to.
Well, imagine the same curriculum that's taught in preschools and kindergartens, and use nature-based activities and environmental stewardship projects to teach that curriculum.
And aren't you outside all day?
We are outside, depending on the year. If we have a colder winter or a very hot summer, we might be outside a little bit less, but generally we're about outside 90% of the time, 80% of the time if we were to have very inclement weather.
And even the snacks and lunch are outside?
Oh yes, for snack we transport our snack with us. And when it's snack time, we find a comfortable spot to sit, whether it be on a park bench or under a shady tree, or somewhere blocked from the winds on a windy day. And then for lunch, we'll take our lunch with us as well. We'll do some of our lunch prep out in the park with us, such as chopping vegetables that the children do.
They must love that.
They do. The children thrive in all of their jobs at school, and lunch prep is one of those jobs, preparing the vegetables, serving the water, setting up the places. One of the big lunch responsibilities in cooler days is setting up our lunch tent. The children stay plenty warm. They're getting so much exercise and are just so active that when we sit down, their bodies cool off a little bit, and it can be helpful to have a little bit more warmth. So we put up a tent, and the children enjoy the jobs of putting the stakes in the ground. They get to hammer them in, putting the poles up for the tent, and then arranging the inside of the tent, which is a snuggly spot for us to be.
And they must just love being in the tent. What kid doesn't love being in it?
It's very fun and special.
And you said the tent's actually a super mountaineer type of,
yeah,
so it could handle any kind of weather?
Yeah, the tent that we use is actually a tent that you could take to the base camp of Mount Everest.
Wow. And
use it there. It's so lightweight and so strong that there's never any deterrent for us to take it with us.
And it sets up real fast, you were saying.
I could set it up myself in 2 minutes and take it down in 2 minutes. Working together as a team, it takes us about 10 minutes to set it up.
And you carry everything on a little wagon with you?
The wagon is our most useful tool. In it we pack. Well, the children bring to school each day their packs, which they're with their extra gear and their water bottles. And they can wear their packs, or they can transport them in our supply wagon. In the winter, we take a supply sled with us. And so in goes the packs, extra gear, our snack, drinking water, water for hand washing, books and a blanket for story time, and our tent as well.
So it's like a turtle with everything on its back.
It is. And then one of the jobs when we're out is pulling the sled and pulling the wagon, and the children take turns. Driving the wagon and being brakes and engines when there's hills to go down. So it's a big teamwork responsibility.
And sometimes you walk quite a ways to get to where you're going to go, right?
Yeah, depending on the day. At our indoor location, we have an outdoor space available, and right behind in the park is the neighborhood sledding hill. So some days, as far as we need to go, is just out the back door, and we can spend the whole day on the hill or climbing the pine trees that are right out back.
Which you call the porcupine
The porcupine trees. The children name those, yeah.
I was thinking later, your place sounds like the Winnie the Pooh. You know, there's the map in the Winnie the Pooh of all the different places, and you had showed me the maps that you use, and when I got home, I'm like, it's just like Winnie the Pooh.
Yes.
The 100-acre wood is here, and the porcupine wood's there.
Yeah, Bird Park is a treasure for an outdoor program. There are 3 wet meadows, which we take a role in maintaining. The children in the fall, they collect the seeds, and after the annual burn, they disperse the seeds and then watch the meadows regrow.
Wow.
And those meadows manage the stormwater runoff.
So do you talk about what you're learning? I mean, what the system, how it's good for the ecosystem? And
yeah, absolutely. So in the fall and in the spring is when we'll have those rainy days, and they'll be great for puddle jumping and playing in mud. And we'll look and see which way the water is going, and watch where it's traveling, and which drains it's going to be going down, and how it's going to travel to Mallett's Creek, and how the swales and the wet meadows are collecting this water to keep the houses dry.
Wow, that's an unusual education for a little kid. In
Yeah.
fact, most adults don't even get that one. That's
Also unique to Bird Park, there's a permaculture food forest that the children help to maintain. And it contains many fruit trees and berry bushes. It's going to have a grape arbor. So the children, right now, their main job is collecting the raspberries.
Good job.
Because the rest of the trees are pretty small right now. But we do lots of mulching jobs to help protect the young trees and planting. And the permaculture food forest is adjacent to the Project Grow Community Garden, where we have a plot. And so the children also are harvesting food for school in the fall. They're digging more garden beds and grow seedlings and plant in the spring.
Great. And you said that for the wet meadow, they collect seeds in the fall and disperse them in the spring, or?
Disperse them after the burns.
Okay.
The burns will either be in the fall or in the spring.
Huh. Great. Gosh. You know, I never would have known it, that part of Ann Arbor would have so much rich opportunities for environmental education, nature study.
Also in Bird Park, it's a cobblestone farm.
Oh, yeah.
The historic spot. And our preschool group, we will go and help set up the cobblestone farmers market.
Oh, gosh.
We'll help arrange straw bales. We'll feed the animals.
Great.
We cut down invasive species such as buckthorn in the parks surrounding us. And we're always picking up trash and beautifying the parks that we spend time in.
Yeah, so you were saying on your normal day has a stewardship component to pretty much every day. And so is that where the picking up trash and the dispersing seeds and that kind of thing comes in?
Absolutely. So each day the children arrive to our outdoor space. Most of them head straight towards the sand pit while we wait for everyone to arrive. Once everyone has gathered, we'll sit on logs under an apple tree and have circle. In that circle, we welcome each other and we go over the plan for the day, because every day is different, because our activities are seasonal and dependent on the weather. From there, we'll take a nature walk to our destination, sit down for a snack, and we'll begin our project, which again is one of those environmental stewardship activities. And the children can help out or they can play in the area. And then we'll have lunch and story time, and then the children are picked up.
Well, last week when I went to visit, I had this kind of amazing, sort of like an epiphany. When I first came into your yard, it struck me as just like kind of disheveled, and, you know, I was like, you know, I don't know, I wasn't really oriented. And then all of a sudden, I looked at it through a child's eyes, and I just went, oh my gosh, this is so rich, because there was all this like boards and stumps and things, and you started explaining how the kids had set up the boards to create like obstacle courses and things, and you showed me this wet area where the water comes in, the kids love to play in the water, and
where the mud pools,
and suddenly I realized that, and you mentioned that you have this sort of like a reject pile from stuff that you set over there, and how the
Scrap
kids
materials.
Yeah, how the kids go for that instead
Yeah.
of you actually do have some wooden building, like big Lego kind of things made out of wood, big blocks that are nice, but the kids go for the scrap stuff instead.
Yep, they take the more open-ended materials. Children are drawn to those open-ended materials because they can create anything with those. Their imagination can run wild. The difference between those having loose parts that are open-ended, such as twigs and feathers and anything children find in nature, as well as the parts that we have in our space. The children are creating their own space, as opposed to a playground that an adult has created for a child.
Yeah, when I think about how much kids love to make forts out of things in the woods, how much cooler that feels than making a fort out of something plastic and cloth that's been provided to you. And how when I was little, I spent so much time picking apart nature, like a daisy or whatever, and just manipulating things with my hands so much. And now kids are, using a mouse and then the virtual world, where they're not actually touching and feeling and smelling. And how do you feel about the differences in nature play versus play on a screen?
Well, children learn through direct exploration, self-directed learning, and through play. Play and exploration is what is going to develop the foundation for academic learning later in the child's life. It's going to lay the groundwork for a child to be successful later in life. Through play, in the self-directed play, which again can look very free to an adult, but it's actually highly structured for a child. When children engage in play, they're creating and assigning roles to each other. They are remembering which role they had and someone else had, so they're using their working memory in developing that. They are staying in character and abiding by the rules of the game, because if they don't, if they leave character or do something that's a violation of the game, the game is going to end, or they're going to be kicked out from the game. So the children are, through that play, are getting so many opportunities to develop impulse control. Impulse control and self-regulation is correlated to success more than IQ is.
Interesting.
And through all of this play and the problem solving and using open-ended objects for play, it enhances children's creativity.
Yeah, impulse control is such a problem in society today. Wow. And things like building resiliency, like when I went to visit last winter and it was so cold, I went to see your igloo, which was amazing. I had so much fun inside the igloo with the kids. And
it was pretty special.
And at first I was like, wow, it's really cold in this igloo, but the kids were just fine in there. We had, stories or songs, or I don't know what it was, but
some games,
Yeah, and then outside we went on a long trek to Ice Mountain. Did you mention Ice Mountain yet?
No, I didn't. The Ice Mountain is a hidden gem in Burr Park. There's the Burr Park Ice Arena, and behind it, the Zamboni pushes out the shavings, and so the snow will pile up over those shavings and create, in the beginning, about mid-November, it starts very small, just about as small as this table here, and it will pile up in different shapes and long shapes, almost like hill ranges and mountain ranges, and it's just an incredible place for the children to play.
And you had mentioned something about risk taking in terms of the kids being allowed to judge what they're capable of, and that you never put them somewhere. Like if a kid said, "Tara, could you put me up high?" And why don't you explain why you wouldn't do that?
Yeah, one of our school rules is that adults do not put a child up on something, but adults are available to spot. So if a child is feeling a little nervous about something that they want to try, they can ask for a spotter, and then I would stand below or behind. But children would be responsible for getting themselves to where they can be, so that I'm not putting the child in a place where they may be compromised.
And so like the tree climbing, you gave an example of how in the beginning they can't do it, and some of the older kids give them some tips. And
when the 3-year-olds start the program, they might be able to get their first foot on the tree and pull themselves up. But the older children, want to play with them, so they'll come down from the top of the tree and show them the way and which way to move through. And then they'll get up a little ways, and by the time they've been in the program 2 or 3 years, they are expert tree climbers.
And it must just do wonders for their self-confidence.
That's exactly what risk-taking does. And when we talk about risks here, we're not talking hazards or dangerous situations. We're talking about when a child perceives something to be risky. So for example, a child walks across a man-made balance beam that's close to the ground. That has a smaller amount of risk because it's a level surface. And a child walks on a log that's on the ground next to that balance beam. That log has an uneven surface and is more risky to the child. They're perceiving that they're taking a risk. Even though it's on the ground, it's stable, it's a safe activity. But the child is perceiving fear. They're feeling fear and they're overcoming it. And that's where they're gaining self-confidence.
That they use for the rest of their lives.
Yep, and they're learning their own limits and boundaries.
When I went last winter, I spoke to one of the parents and I asked him why he was sending his daughter there, and he said for physical motor development, which really surprised me. But the more I'm learning about what you do, I'm thinking, compared to most kids that are spending so much time indoors, and the parents are too busy to take them to places. Maybe they get some organized sports activities, but in terms of just all the free play, I'm sure it does really improve their physical coordination.
Yeah, the main difference is that our school takes place on uneven surfaces. And so the children are always using balance muscles. But flexibility, the strength that they gain, like I said, they're pulling the wagon. They're choosing to carry their packs. They're wearing big boots in the winter. And last winter, it was an effort to get through the deep snow. It involved lifting your legs up quite high.
You have one picture of a little girl sleeping in the sun on the snow. She pulled a bunch of warm clothes or coats around her.
Yes, there was
so
one child last year who made it a habit to take naps in the winter, and so
how nice
she would
to be able to take a nap outside
curl
in
up,
the
and we would
day.
pull her, and
that's really nice.
She would sleep at the bottom of the sledding hill or at the top, and we'd wake her up for lunch. And
so a key to this whole thing is proper gear, right? Like when the weather is wet and you allow them to just play in the mud, but because they're wearing waders, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Being prepared. We have a permanent shelter for the most inclement weather. We have a wind and a rain shelter, which is our tent a mobile shelter that we can take with us. And then our most important shelter is what we wear. So in the summer, the children are wearing wide brim sun hats. They're wearing long sleeve shirts and long pants that are lightweight and have a high SPF factor, as well as closed-toed shoes. And even on hotter days, an evaporative cooling necktie, which cools down all the blood in the body and really helps the body to regulate its temperature. And then in the rainier times of the year, so the fall and the spring, the children wear waders, so that
they must love those,
which connect their boots to their rain pants and keep them warm, and that way they can go in all the puddles, all the mud.
How many places do they get to go and just play in the mud? That's great.
Yep, as long as you stay warm and dry while you're doing it, that you can do it indefinitely. Well, until you get hungry, should I say.
Yeah.
And then in the winter, we wear lots of wool and fleece layers, as well as lots of wind-blocking layers.
And you actually purchased the clothing for the kids, and the parents just rent it out for the year, because you want to make sure they have certain really, I guess the stuff is worn, like you said, for trekking and stuff?
Yeah, we do have a specific school uniform to guarantee that every child is as safe as they can be in all the different weather that we go out in.
I was really impressed when you showed it to me. The stuff's super light, super comfortable, and really lovely stuff. Well, gosh, it's just a really wonderful program, and it seems to me that more schools should do at least some of it. I mean, you know, you're an exceptional person in that you have the stamina to be outside with the kids all day long. Or I mean, I guess it's what, from 9 to 1 o'clock?
9 to 1 right now, yeah.
But still, so much of what you do could be done by other schools, at least a portion of it.
Absolutely. It's important to have access to the outdoor space. So an urban forest, it doesn't have to be quite the same access that I have. We Florecita is in a very fortunate location. We have the 40-acre Burr Park, and we are a block and a half from County Farm Park, as well as a block and a half from Mary Beth Doyle Nature Reserve.
Wonderful.
But even having access to a smaller space that can provide some different habitat, so meadows, fields, maybe a few fruit trees and orchards, the forest, they all have very different feels and go through different changes in different seasons.
Well, you're doing wonderful work, and I hope that more people learn about it and do similarly, because this is the only one in Michigan, right?
This is the only one in Michigan. There is one right now in Portland, or excuse me, in Oregon. There's a Forest Kindergarten, as well as Washington State. There's one in Connecticut and one in New York right now.
If people want to learn more about Forest Kindergarten, what would you recommend they do?
I would look up on Wikipedia Forest Kindergartens. You can also check out my website, forestkinder.com.
Okay, great. Well, this has been really informative, and thank you for doing what you're doing. It's great.
Thank you for having me.
For an online archive of today's show, go to ewashta.org/greenroom. Thanks for joining us here in the Green Room.